The Juneteenth national holiday is sometimes called the longest-running emancipation celebration, but truth is, there are many dates observed throughout the South.
While Juneteenth marks the day when people who were enslaved in Texas learned of their freedom, the story of emancipation in Florida is older and more complex. To learn more about the history of emancipation in Florida, I met with Dr. Tameka Hobbs. She's a historian, educator, author, and activist. She currently serves as the regional manager of Broward County's African American Research Library and Cultural Center in Fort Lauderdale.
You can begin when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation and it went into effect on January 1st, 1863. Those people who had been enslaved in areas that were under federal control were freed immediately. And so that applied not only to parts of Florida, Key West specifically, and in East Florida, but in many places along the South Carolina coast.
That means Florida's tradition of observing emancipation predates what we celebrate with Juneteenth by at least 2 years. The 20th of May has been observed as Florida's Emancipation Day in communities across Florida for nearly 160 years, as the day the majority of Florida's enslaved population was freed. The history is explored in Dr. Hobbs' newly released documentary called Before Juneteenth, Florida's Emancipations.
I just think it's so important that this particular history does not get eclipsed with some of the today fanfare or hype that's going on as it relates to emancipation. The observance, the historical date of May 20th, 1865, which is Emancipation Day, is what I grew up and others like me grew up knowing it as, is the date when African Americans enslaved in Florida were freed from slavery.
Florida historians say it's very important to preserve the history and events that took place in our state, especially the celebrations and tradition keepers who invested their time and energy to make sure May 20th was a festive occasion each year.
A lot of hearing about it came about because of Juneteenth. As Juneteenth became more popular and began to be observed more in different places around the country, that's when you started hearing more that, well, you know, that was Texas. What about our story here in Florida? This was a very profound experience and something not to be brushed aside and something not to just be a footnote in history.
Dr. Hobbs says all these holidays together, the 20th of May, Juneteenth, and 4th of July together, all have a very important place in helping tell our national history, that not everyone in American democracy was free at the same point, and our journey to freedom was much more complicated. For a link to watch that full documentary, just go to our website, cbsmiami.com. The documentary also highlights the culture keepers across the state of Florida working to keep the traditions of emancipation alive in their communities.